Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Where are those kids in cages, tube men and women, with their performative hysterics? Do they all disappear? How about the socialist Spice Girls that refer to Customs and Border Patrol as Nazi tower guards? Where are they?
Receiving counseling because of January 6th.
How is this happening in Biden's America? The BBC did a report uncovering allegations of cold temperatures, sickness, neglect, lice, and filth through a series of interviews with children and staff at the detention centers across the country.
Why does it take the foreign media to expose this? Because everybody else is sitting on their hands because they don't care. They had to make Trump look bad.
Well, Reason Magazine isn't sitting on their hands.
Good.
More than 4,500 immigrant children and teens are being held in enormous, filthy tents on a military base in Texas without access to basic necessities, including underwear, according to interviews, photos, documents, and recordings obtained by Reason, talking about Fort Bliss, Army base near El Paso. If you took a poll, probably about 98% of the federal workers here would say it's appalling, one federal employee told Reason. Everybody tries in their own way to quietly disobey and get things done, but it can be difficult. How? This is Biden's America. Bad old racist Trump, who didn't like people coming into the country from the southern border, is gone. This is a kinder, gentler, more enlightened America where you can have 40,000 apprehensions a week and no problem. We're going to treat everybody with the human dignity they deserve. That's the promise. And for the left, I suppose, all the promise is all that's necessary. We don't really care so much about the implementation. We're not so much interested in the actual outcomes because this is about us. It's not about them. It's about us feeling good and being superior in our own minds. Well, feel free, not just feel free, I encourage you to pick up the piece that CJ Ciaramella did for Reason Magazine and share it with all of those within your social circle who were chiding you about conditions at the border and moralizing to you about how much better it's going to be, both from a security perspective and a humanity perspective at the border under a sensible president like Joe Biden. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by the aforesaid CJ Ciaramella, criminal justice reporter for Reason. CJ, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Good work here. This is great stuff that you and Reason were able to obtain. Just give us some more detail per your reporting on just the scope of the problem at Fort Bliss and at the border more generally.
Right. So when the Biden administration sort of started gearing up, as you all probably remember, it was all over the news. There was this huge surge in unaccompanied children coming across the border. It was thousands of them. And Biden had campaigned on, making this immigration system more compassionate, this sort of rhetoric. And they suddenly found themselves having to do something with all these thousands of children. What the Biden administration did was they took them out of Customs and Border Protection detainee facilities and moved them over to the Department of Health and Human Services. And HHS built all these sort of emergency shelters around the country. The Associated Press reported there was about 200 such facilities across the country where they were basically stashing these kids while they were trying to reunite them with their parents or figure out where they should go. And it was sort of this, I would describe it in the way the federal employees described it to me. They reached out to us. And, I got to be honest. Reason, there's not a lot of federal government employees, I imagine, who are huge fans of Reason. They
Yeah.
talk about how much we dislike the government, but they reached out to us because they were, like you said, they were appalled at this. This is the words that they used. It was sort of this compassionate rhetoric meeting the buzzsaw realities, where the federal government was trying to set up these giant tent camps, and they were running short on supplies like lice kits, basic forms. They had these federal employees. They're a lot of them were, if not senior level, they had been there for a while. They were pretty well compensated, but they all of a sudden they had volunteered to do this and found themselves being detailed to these sort of like poorly operating tent cities where they were doing these sort of mundane, dumb tasks like moving tables around without a lot of direction. They said the contractors weren't doing proper things, and this whole situation was just going to hell around them. These kids, they said they don't have enough underwear, they don't have enough lice kits. There's not enough training. The staff aren't properly trained for what they're doing. These federal employees were suddenly being asked to do clinical assessments of these teenagers and children, asking them had they been abused, blah blah blah, and it's just a bizarre situation. And the biggest of these was in El Paso, or Fort Bliss near El Paso, and it currently holds about 4,500 immigrant children who are waiting to be processed and attempted to be reunited with their parents. And we got these federal employees who reached out to us, gave us recordings of staff meetings where trainers were talking about how filthy the conditions were, how the tents were full of food, and the beds were dirty, and how there had been inappropriate contact between staff and minors, which I think was one of the most disturbing parts, is that these kids are in a dangerous situation, and apparently some of them are getting preyed upon.
Well, what do you mean, like by other kids that are there?
You said staff.
Other kids, and the trainer said that staff had also had inappropriate contact. So, these kids are jammed. Like, when you imagine this, these are basically huge white tents with bunks that are jammed in there, one next to the other. So they're very crowded, very loud, and not a lot of personal space at all. They've segregated the boys and the girls, but apparently for a little while when they first did it, they weren't even, segregated by gender.
Well, sure, because this administration doesn't see gender. I wonder, from the federal employees that you spoke with, did they provide any compare contrast of what it was like before Jan 20 and what it's been like the first 5 months of the year?
No, because these are all these federal employees were detailed here from other agencies. This whole thing sort of just sprung out of nowhere. They're like, okay, we need to build shelters and we need people to staff them. So they put out a call for volunteers. They're basically flying in federal employees from all these other agencies to come handle this. Oh. It's like I said, it's outside of Customs and Border Protection and ICE. So it's sort of a whole different crowd. So they probably, most of them probably weren't there for the previous administration. It is a marked difference from the Trump and Obama administrations, and like the photos that you're alluding to, that everyone was making hay over these kids, in these detention facilities. But the conditions there are still raising a lot of serious concerns about the welfare of these kids. Although the New York Times did have a story yesterday that said that Democrats had been quieter on their criticisms than they had in the past for predictable reasons.
And are any kids trying to escape?
Yeah, the federal employees I talked to said that about 6 of them had tried to jump the fence. There's, not a barbed wire fence. There's just a fence that surrounds the tent facility. But the problem is that it's within a military base. So the kids jump the fence and then just get picked up shortly later by the military police. It's not like they can really get out. So they have tried to get out. I've heard that there were disturbances inside the tents with, kids hosting a little mini rebellion, trying to, throwing stuff, and they're pretty unhappy about the conditions there.
It's gonna be hot.
And so this is, the thing too is you mentioned some perhaps inappropriate conduct by staff, and that's certainly something to take seriously. But that speaks to the same issue, which is competence and oversight, the implementation of this. And you also document in your piece, there's a lot of federal workers, obviously they're whistleblowers, they came to you to tell you about what was going on, that want the resources that they don't have. They want to help these families and treat these families humanely while they wait to have their status adjudicated and so forth. So it's not a lack of desire among most of the federal employees. It's a lack of competence by the federal government.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the issue they're running into. They're telling me that they don't have enough forms that they need to, do the paperwork for these children. They're not, they don't have there's been complaints that the kids are being denied prompt medical care. They'll go and say oh, I'm feeling sick. And then someone will say, we'll see you after lunch, or you're fine, go take a nap. In one case, this town hall meeting that I got a recording of, someone asked this official that they had heard about a kid, or there was a kid who was coughing up blood, and they were told, we'll see you after lunch, and they found out there was a 3.5-hour wait to see the medical tent. And so, that's the sort of bureaucratic logjam they're running into.
Well, and part of this, I assume, just based on the scrambling of resources that otherwise had not been previously deployed to the border, this is also the underestimation of the sort of wink and a nod rhetoric from this administration. Don't come right now, but if you come, we're not going to do anything, and we're also going to treat everybody very humanely and with dignity, unlike the previous administration. All this is the proposition they're putting out to the Western Hemisphere, and then they get all these people that come, that 40,000, from 5,000 a week to 40,000 a week being apprehended at the border, and all these people pushing their unaccompanied children into, frankly, harm's way to try and get into this country.
Right. Yeah. So the from what I understand, the flow of children has sort of started to taper off, at least. So they're not in the worst of it appears to be over, as far as jamming these new kids. They're coming in by busloads. They bring these kids in by bus and process them. But from what I understand, the biggest part of this sort of surge is over. So they're starting to at least stabilize the population that they have. But most of these kids have, the object was to get them in and out quickly, but there's a bunch of them who've been there for at least a month or more, in this sort of just wretched tent city. And, like I said, they're just running into this bureaucratic, logjam or buzzsaw, or however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
Where they're getting stacked up and they can't get them out quick enough.
He is CJ Ciaramella, criminal justice reporter for Reason Magazine, Reason.com. CJ, thanks for joining us. Great piece.
Anytime.
Good work. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Are you aware that AmericanEagle.com has been designing websites since the internet started? Do you know they've helped companies large and small achieve results that they themselves thought impossible? Today, a well-designed website is an art form. There are no cookie-cutter solutions. At AmericanEagle.com, they are proud to design and develop a website that fits their client's business. Their experience shows that a well-designed website with the client's business at the forefront will bring an excellent return on their investment. Clients, from startups to medium and large businesses, have come to rely on them for a full line of website services, from consulting and integration to digital strategy and marketing, hosting and maintenance. AmericanEagle.com is the technology partner you need if you're looking for online success. They work with all kinds of companies in nearly every industry. Give the team at AmericanEagle.com a call today, 1-877-WEB-NOW-1. Let them help you achieve online results and success. AmericanEagle.com, that number again, 1-877-WEB-NOW, and the number